playtime is over. Get your Prepared Mind merchandise at thepreparedmind.club. Help keep free speech free and spread the word about the need to prep. Hello and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. I am John. I'm the host and you guys rock. Thank you very much to everybody on Patreon and welcome YouTube for the once a week weekly wrap up of are we getting closer to shit hitting the fan or not? Right? Well, once again, we're getting closer. So let's get into it. All right, special message for everyone on Patreon. Sorry about not getting a video out yesterday. I had a kind of a medical emergency in the family, and that kind of took priority. But I'm going to make it up to you with a very special Board of Truth presentation that'll be Monday. You'll see it Monday. It'll be terrific. Very enlightening, very eye-opening. And if you're on YouTube and you want to see that, you just got to get over to Patreon, sign up, which doesn't take much. And then you can get daily updates on Shit Hits the Fan events, equipment, wisdom, whatever we've got, we throw it all out there. We don't take anything off the table, or at least we try not to take anything off the table. But this week I wanted to start by saying, as preppers, we need to recognize a trend and prepare before the consequences come about. You see, that's one of the things about being a prepper is we're recognizing trends. And when you start doing that, you can start finding your own information and seeing where we're going. Right? It's trend recognition. It's not just an event. Nothing happens for a reason. Things are happening in a progressive manner. For example, the Democrat Party used to be about liberty. They used to believe that they were offering a form of freedom that was different than the Republican flavor of freedom. They have progressed as progressives, right? The trend has been to more and more government. As a result, we've got lunatics, absolute fools in office, and they're destroying everything. So it's our job to recognize a trend and prepare before the consequences, because once the consequences hit, right, there is absolutely nothing, right, that you can do about it. You caught with your pants down. Anyways, let's move on to things. Are we getting into shit hitting the fan or not? This has been a huge story for the last week and a half. It has to do with state assemblies or the state legislatures passing bills to make late-term abortion legal. And it has outraged the country. Outraged. Now, I'm not going to get into a big anti-abortion debate on here. It's not the point. The point is to discuss how can abortion have anything to do with shit hitting the fan? It has to do with a moral foundation. Morality. Knowing the difference between right and wrong. And accepting responsibility for your behavior. For your mistakes. Right? And I'm not talking about triggering some snowflake. That's not a mistake on your part. It's a mistake on their part. But they don't want to accept responsibility from themselves. But as far as most of the abortions that go on out there are from women who have put themselves in a situation, right, and they got pregnant, and they're not wanting to accept the responsibility, the consequences, right? So there is moral decay in our culture. And it's not just in the culture, but it is so prevalent now, and it's been adopted by the Democrat Party, and it's a wedge issue. It's very divisive. And it's one more way that they divide us, right? They do it with money, with race, with religion, with the size and scope of government, whether it's good or bad, right? They bring up everything they can to divide us so that the left, which is absolutely full of hatred, they have one more reason to hate us. And they say we're trying to take their rights. And, of course, on the abortion side, they say, no, we're trying to protect the rights of babies who can't speak for themselves. right? Because they're inside a womb, or they're newborn or close to newborn. They can't speak, but the government has a responsibility to protect life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. They're not doing it. So when I say we have moral decay, that is evidence, right? It's prima facie evidence that the government is corrupt and is basically unrecognizable when they start passing these sorts of laws. So, once again, this is a wedge issue, it's a divisive issue, and it's going to cause partisan conflicts because there is no middle ground. You can't take evil, which is what immorality is. You can't take evil and reason with it. It's like a Terminator. You can't reason with it. You can't bargain with it. You can't make any sense. It's there doing its job. And evil's job is to destroy and kill. Primarily destroy and kill innocents. Bad stuff. Shitting the fan, well, that's not going to cause it, but it's certainly going to be a contributing factor. Moving on, we have President Trump. He's been talking about the wall. The border wall, border security, national security. This is one of the few issues where the government says national security is at stake, and I actually agree with them. Right? For the most part, I think they're full of shit, and they use that to try and coax more taxes out of us. Actually, they just charge more taxes and tell us, right, that they're fully authorized to do it. But in this case, right, the Democrats claim that the Pentagon says there's no national security issue there. Well, of course they would say that because the Pentagon has Democrats in it. It's not military, bipartisan, nonpartisan. No, it's very partisan. It's very partisan. So the president and Republicans could equally stand up and say, the Pentagon says there's a national security issue down there, right? How about a national health issue with all the disease that's coming across? We already know about the child trafficking crisis we have going both ways, literally, right? Young Latin Americans being brought here as sex slaves to be sold into prostitution, and white Americans being kidnapped and sent, white, black, it doesn't matter, Americans, because we're just kind of different, right? And so it's, what do you want to call it? It's desirable by wealthy scumbags in other countries to buy American slaves. So they traffic them back out through Mexico. There's that. And then we have drugs. Fentanyl has been in the news lately. Fentanyl, that great, delicious painkiller, right? So President Trump tried saying, look, it's a national security issue. We've got huge drug trafficking. It needs to be stopped. And the Democrats said, no, there isn't. Well, leave it to our canine friends. They sniffed out a truck that was like the most massive single drug bust ever. Certainly for fentanyl. Certainly coming from Mexico, right, in this fashion. Anyways, it was a truckload of the very drugs that Trump says we need to stop that's causing death amongst teens. Death amongst adults. Right? And where's that fentanyl coming from? Well, I don't know, but a lot of people think it's from China. But I'm sure they don't put on the little bottles made in China to be smuggled into the USA, right? How do we know? We don't. But this drug issue, more political conflict, more stupidity that's going to cause partisan conflicts in our country, right? Which is, it's going to be, hand-to-hand civil war when shit hits the fan between factions that think the wall is a great idea and the factions that say the wall is stupid, right? If they had a literal truckload of pills coming across the border, I'm sure that's not the only one that's ever tried. Can you imagine all of those drugs going out and how many lives it's wrecking and the cost of that? People that don't get killed, let's not look at the cost of someone who's killed, but rather the cost of someone who's alive. Their internal organs are wrecked, or their mind is wrecked, their body is wrecked, and they're going to need health care the rest of their lives. That cost, it adds up. Bad news. Anyways, congratulations to the dog. Well done. You get a milk bone. And we know that we're getting closer to shit hitting the fan. Because it's just going to, it's going to ratchet up the bullshit. It's going to ratchet up the bullshit. And I'm really disappointed in Trump. Trump does a lot of great things, but I'm disappointed in him. And I'll point to that. That he keeps threatening to use executive authority down there. I'm tired of him threatening to do it. I want him to do it. Use executive authority. Build the fucking wall without the permission of the Democrats. reallocate funds from one section of the government to the other. They've already taxed the shit out of us. They might as well spend it on something useful. Anyway, Trump should have made more hay out of it. I think there should have been a whole lot more hay made out of that. But, it is what it is. All right. I had to take a sneeze break there. The polar vortex. Right? That came about, was it last year or the year before? But the way to describe the polar cold that comes down and just cripples the country. We had one hell of a crippling polar vortex. Came down over the Great Lakes region. I think that's called the upper Midwest. Everyone on the other side of the Mississippi is more familiar with the term than we are out here in sunny California. What a cold spell. Remember when I said you need to recognize a trend and then prepare accordingly so that you don't suffer the consequences. Every year, there's a trend. Every October, it starts getting colder, and we need to be prepared. So hopefully you learned some valuable lessons about heat, clothing, food, helping others, travel, and other things having to do with this polar vortex. Because when shit does get to hitting the fan, winter doesn't call a timeout and allow us to solve our conflicts and then come back later, right? It'll concurrently smack the shit out of us with whatever shit hits the fan happens. So that's why you need to make sure you have serious cold weather gear. Boots, coats, pants, the proper undergarments to wick moisture away so you don't get hypothermia while you're dressed in a bunch of clothes, right? And the other thing, of course, is to understand if you exercise too hard and you start to sweat in your heavy clothing, as soon as you stop exercising, you'll cool down and now you're wet and you can get hypothermia. Bad news. Anyways, that polar vortex, what a whopper. Friend of mine sent me, in fact, they show up every time there's one of these polar vortexes. Throw a cup of hot water in the air and it turns into steam and ice instantly. It's cold. I've been in negative 22 degrees where I'm at here. And I've walked into a negative 50 degree freezer one time, a flash freezer at a bread factory in Sacramento. You want to talk about cold, it froze my pants stiff. Because the relative humidity there is about 35%, so your clothes got all this moisture in them and it freezes. Wow. Polar vortex, deadly. I don't have any figures, and I haven't gone looking for them to see how many people expired, and it's a sad thing to hear, but when these storms come, man, look out. So let's move on to the Democrats again. They're announcing, all of these Democrats, that they're running for president. They are attacking each other like vicious wolves, right? That have had barbecue sauce poured on each other so that they taste good when they attack. These people have no moral foundation, right? They are decayed mentally. They're decayed morally. Look at how they attack each other. And then like zombies, as soon as they're all done killing each other, they start marching in the same direction, thinking that they're going to eat the brains of other people, right? Brains, right? Because that's what they don't like. They don't want anyone else to have a brain. But they're attacking each other now. So, it's incredible to me. I wanted to mention it to show you how quickly these people literally cannibalize themselves. When shit hits the fan, they're going to cannibalize themselves. They're going to kill other people. They have no compunction. They're driven by their insane lust for power. Lust for power. And the Republicans, right on our side, they're spineless. So you've got spineless versus brainless in this world. That's the world we have. It's sad to say. I would run for political office, except I wouldn't make it very far, right? It would take a lot of money. And then, of course, they would dig up every rotten thing I've ever said or supposedly said, and they would bring people out and destroy any credibility I have. But, right, there's good people in this country, but they just won't run because of the absolute disgusting character of people who hold office. So Trump, for what it's worth, he's not Jesus Christ, but he's a decent enough human being who seems to actually give a shit about this country. And for all the lampooning he takes for being a Twitter bug, right, I think he's not doing enough. He ought to be attacking him more because he's the only one doing it. There should be, 60 senators, and there should be 200 congressmen, all Republicans, out in front of cameras every day, putting Democrats in their place. But because they're not standing up for what's right, when you don't push against evil, and the left is now evil, they're demonstrating it with abortion, with taxation, with the desire to tell you what to do. There's support of aggressive law enforcement techniques, as evidenced by the arrest of Roger Stone, who's a fruity old man, right? Does he need to be SWAT-style arrested? No, but they're immoral and that type of thinking, right? We need to either arrest people or kill them. That's the left, right? And if there's no one pushing back against that, what happens? It advances. If you recall your history from World War II, there's a gentleman named Neville Chamberlain. He was a Brit, and he's famous for trying to pacify, to placate Adolf Hitler by not taking an aggressive stance against him and giving him a break and just backing off and letting everything else handle it. Well, guess what? Hitler continued to grow and grow in power, and he was antagonized by the British Secret Service and the American Secret Services. They were antagonized, and it just made things even worse. I don't mean antagonized in a good way. They were screwing with them. What became known later as regime change and some other things, but the early systems weren't that effective, and it just suited the aggressive nature of what Hitler was, and he went on the attack. But Neville Chamberlain, he tried pacification, and pacification does not work. The surest way to encourage an aggressor is to do nothing. And right now the Republican parties are not doing anything, so the Democrats are being aggressive, and they're pushing all of this division, all of this hatred. They're pushing big government, and that means we're getting closer to shit hitting the fan. Now, this week we had some massive news, massive, that has everything to do with shit hitting the fan, but nobody really, except for us, me, you, and some others, really recognize it. Chairman Powell, last year, everything's strong. We're going to have 4 more rate increases of the prime lending rate, right? The prime rate, that is the percentage rate that you pay, or the banks pay for money. We're going to have 4 more hikes. So another full point in 2019. Then we had that big-ass correction, right? Which I called, they stopped it artificially using the plunge protection team. But we had that huge correction in December. Worst December ever, and it would have been even worse had they not done what they did. With Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, and the major banks who came out and said, oh yeah, we've got no problem with liquidity, meaning we'll pump the markets full of cash and stop this crash. Well, Powell came out and he said, hey, look, I don't think we're going to have any rate hikes this year. Right? They just had their FOMC meeting, and they said, nope. Right? So they went from we're going to have 4 hikes in 2019 to 2 hikes. Now we're at none. So they're reversing their position. You could say, well, they've just come to a complete stop. They're not going to raise them, but they're not going to lower them. Oh, no, not going to lower them. Well, I'm willing to bet that in a few months they're going to lower them. They're going to have to. You see, they were trying to claim that the economy was too hot. It was cooking too good. I think that's bullshit. I think the problem was inflation. They're trying to hedge or curb the inflation by raising the rates. Once they start raising the rates, they kill the economic activity. That's what we're suffering from right now. Now, Powell came out, and this is fascinating. He said over in China, they've got a recession. They've got huge monetary problems in China. They've got huge financial and huge economic problems in China. And that is just fascinating, is it not? That our Federal Reserve chairman can look at another country and diagnose what's going on from the outside. He doesn't sit on the Chinese Federal Reserve Board. He's only here in the United States. But he can look over there and identify a recession. Same thing for the EU, the European Union. He stood on his little platform, his little soapbox on Wednesday, and very calmly, very lucidly, very articulately explained how the rest of the world is fucked up. The EU is in recession. Who are our two main trading partners on this planet? The EU and China. I mean, we do a lot of trade with Canada and a lot with Mexico and other countries, but if you look at huge blocks, right, the EU, the European Union, it's all of Europe. It's a huge block. China is a huge trading partner. Fuck, we have a trade deficit of, $600 billion a year, meaning we spend that much more than they spend with us. Anyways, he says the EU is in big trouble financially, monetarily, right, and economically. He can, from Washington or wherever the hell his office is, he can see all the way across the Atlantic and see how screwed up they are. But he started talking about our economy. Oh, our economy's great, it's robust, but we're going to stop raising rates because of hanky-panky A, B, and C. And he gave us some hooey, some bullshit. Now, all things being equal, the EU is important, the United States is important, China is important. If the other two are having a recession, stands to reason that we are as well. We're not an economic powerhouse the way we used to be. We're not an industrial powerhouse the way we used to be. Right? We're a service economy for the most part, with some industrial, some mining, some agriculture. But we're not the powerhouse anymore because corporations were allowed to export the technology, the equipment, and the know-how to other countries so that they can start manufacturing things using cheaper labor and sell them back to us at an even greater profit. Thank you very much for allowing that shit to happen, Washington, D.C. Anyways, what Powell did was he admitted by accusing other countries or identifying other countries as recessionary, he quite silently indicted the U.S. of being in the same situation. We're in the same situation. We are facing economic turmoil, recession right now. That's why they stopped raising rates, then cut it back to 2, then now to 0, and then we're going to start dropping the rates in an effort to spur more economic activity. Cheap money, in other words. Except over the last few years, all the cheap money that has gone out, corporations have used to buy back their own stock, to make the price of the stock higher. Because everyone's bidding they're competing to bid on it. And so it's raising the rate, raising the value of stocks. That's cheap money. And then they go, look at how profitable our corporation is because of the stock value. Stock value is not economic value. Still, it's being used as the gauge. So the Federal Reserve Chairman Powell let us all know time is short. Once again, without saying it, read the tea leaves, right? Once again, recognize a trend before it happens or before it becomes chronic or toxic or acute so that you don't suffer the consequence. That's the essence of being a prepper. Are we getting closer to shit hitting the fan? Indeed, we are. Do your very best to get prepped with food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Have a plan. Go to the preparedmind.club, C-L-U-B, and do your shopping there. Right, that's the absolute best prices that we could secure for a number of items, and then we have other companies for products you can't get through our store. Right, we have vendors on there that do the absolute best to get the best price products on prepping supplies. If you don't like them, you don't check the prices, you find it cheaper elsewhere, go there. Right, I'm not saying buy my stuff because I'm selling it. I'm saying go get the stuff. And we do the best we can, and everyone should do the best for themselves at this point to get prepared because the shitstorm is coming. And remember, it's not Washington when shit hits the fan that you need to worry about. It's the idiots in the 10 miles around you that you need to worry about. People that think it's okay to kill babies. People think that it's okay to send the police to your house to collect your weapons because they don't like you. And if the police kill you, well, you were a right-wing radical anyways. That's what they fucking think. Right? These are the same people that believe taxes should be 70, 80%. Same people that think they should come to your house, assess the value of all of your property, and then tax you on it. And if you cannot pay it because you have no cash, then they should be able to confiscate the property and sell it and take the money. That's what communism wants. And that's what we need to be very wary about. When shit hits the fan, these people are going to be around you. And they're going to use their hard times as an excuse to see you as the enemy. Because they don't want to accept responsibility for themselves. They don't want to accept that the consequences they're dealing with are their own fault. They're going to blame you. And it's going to cause more and more partisan conflict in our country. So get prepared. Right? Step on up, because no one else is going to do it for you. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. You guys be cool, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you again for all of your support on YouTube and on Patreon especially. You guys are cool. You're the reason I'm here. If no one wanted to hear this shit, I'd quit doing it. But I can't stop now. You guys, you inspire me, and I want to thank you for it. So be cool. Have a great weekend. And for everyone in the upper Midwest, don't be cool. Stay as warm as you can. And I'll be back Monday.